What's up, everybody? Welcome to Solana Weekly. This is your host, Thomas, and I want to thank you for joining in. Let's take a dive into the latest trends, use cases, and people behind the incredible growth of the Solana ecosystem. None of this is financial advice, but I'm hoping that all of this is alpha. Now let's get to the show. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Solana Weekly. This is your host, Thomas Bahamas, and I would like to give a warm welcome to Caitlin, who is the face of one of my favorite apps in crypto, Moonwalk. I've been benefiting from this app for months now, and really excited to talk to you about it. Welcome to the show, Caitlin. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm great. Just got back from a very cold moonwalk in Chicago.
Oh, did you? Oh, wow,
Yeah.
wow. What kind of temperatures are we looking at out there?
It's single digits in Fahrenheit right now. It felt like -7 degrees this morning when I walked to the office, so
Oh
it's warmed
man,
up a little bit. You just need good
oh
equipment.
man. Do you do a lot? Get a lot of indoor steps in?
I do. I prefer walking outside. I was just
Yeah.
talking about this on Twitter the other day, like having a good coat and gloves and a hat and a scarf, whatever you need. I just prefer the fresh air and
Oh yeah.
sunlight when it happens here, which in the winter is not very often. But I try to do the steps outside unless it's way too cold and windy to do it. It just breaks things up a little bit more than a treadmill.
Definitely, definitely. I'm in California, so we get sunshine most of the time, but it's raining here today, so I haven't stepped outside yet. We're like wimps when it comes to the weather, but I will be getting some steps in later because I'm in a competition right now.
There we go. We got to do it. Got to find a way.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, I'm super excited to have you on. I've been using Moonwalk since pretty much the start, and like it's kind of a game changer. I think it's kind of like in the new class of apps on crypto that people are using daily, right? Like there aren't that many that I come back to and I'm constantly using and like have an actual effect in my real life, and Moonwalk is definitely one of those.
I love hearing that. Yeah, I mean, it by design, this is something we want people to be using every day because it's just all about healthy habit formation. So it's
Yeah,
good to hear that people are actually doing that and that it's something that they want to keep coming back to. And I also think we've had a lot of community members say the same, where it's almost addictive in a way, which is interesting because it's something that's good for you. Usually you think addiction is something that's negative. But we've had a lot of users that were pretty uncertain at the start and not sure if they could do it, not sure if they were going to be interested and keep going, and then they come back and say, "Oh, I want more challenging games. I just joined like 5 at the same time," or something like that. So,
yeah.
it's an interesting feedback loop. We've seen a pretty positive snowball effect of people who get started, and regardless of how they feel at the beginning, they kind of stick with it and it just becomes part of their day-to-day, which is exactly what we want.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Now, when you talk about Moonwalk, like what is your way of introducing somebody that has never heard about it before? Like, let's start at like the very beginning of how do you explain it to somebody that's never heard of it?
Yeah, sure. So I think something important here to note as well is that so Moonwalk Fitness in the team came from the crypto space, but when I talk about this product, this is something that, and our whole team is aligned in this way. We started with a crypto audience because that's where we're from. We're all Solana native. We've been here for a long time. Solana has been a great sort of beta testing community. I think crypto lends to that very well of like kind of working through the kinks of like a brand new user experience, giving good feedback, sticking with it. But the main goal for Moonwalk is to make this a mainstream fitness app. And it is not going to be crypto forward in doing that. And we can talk a little bit later about where we're going to go with the product to make it more mainstream friendly. But
Hmm.
Moonwalk is first and foremost a fitness app. So the way that I describe it is a fitness accountability app that helps users using financial and social incentives to help users form daily healthy habits, habits that
Yeah,
stick, right? We see so many, we're coming up on New Year's resolutions as we do this call. There are so many unrealistic and unsustainable pieces of fitness advice and diet advice out there. And what happens every time is that people don't stick with it. So, how do you actually put your money where your health is, as I like to say, and stick to doing the things you say you're going to do and start with something that's an achievable goal that you can integrate into your life? Moonwalk is that. Moonwalk hosts step based competitions. Steps could be walking, it could be running, it could be anything in between, just moving your body for more minutes in a day in whatever way that looks like for you. We've seen so many pieces of research on the benefits of even doing as much as 7,000 steps a day and what it can do for reducing risk of different chronic diseases, weight loss, weight maintenance, all of the things that you want, both for physical and mental health. just
Yeah.
getting steps in. And this is something that is very easy to add to your day, regardless of your job or your lifestyle. So we're starting there. And basically, the way that games work is that you put up money to join a step contest. Right now, that's USDC Solar Bonk.
Hmm.
And there's a step goal for every day in the contest. If you hit the step goal consistently, you get all of your money back at the end of the game and the chance to split a prize pool. That prize pool is made up of partial deposits from those who do not do what they say they're going to do, or in other words, miss the step goal on one or multiple days. So I call it gamified accountability in the way that I just described that, other than mention of USDC, Bonk, and Sol for context. I mean, it's a very simple concept that non-crypto native people can understand. And eventually we'll move to a model where it's not even necessarily crypto forward and users don't need crypto to get started. It'll just be another fitness app that they use to put money on the line to hold themselves accountable. And we've seen, really amazing feedback from users so far, even in MVP of the product, which, you've been using it. It's very simplistic and there's a lot of ways we can go with it based off of that. Sorry, that was
Yeah.
a long answer.
No, there's that's like everything that I want to talk about, you just went over. I mean, there's so many good parts to it. And yeah, I mean, accountability in general is so hard, right? Like we all know what to do, right? Like you need to move your body. It's like when you move your body, you feel better, right? Like at its core, like that should be like what everybody should be doing. But it's hard. It's really hard to do in the modern day, right? So I feel like what you guys have done is like you really got the incentives right. Like there is something to me putting up money and not wanting to lose it, where it's like I would rather walk circles around my living room at night than lose $5. Like
Right.
like I don't want to lose any money. Like I spend more time walking to not lose money than I do researching meme coins I throw money at sometimes. It's like
Love it.
that's like and it's not like intentional. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, so there are a couple parts to that too, right? So habit formation in general is so hard. If you
Yeah.
look at any studies on it, you have to repeatedly and consciously do the thing that is eventually the habit that you want to form over and over and over again, very consistently for a long time in order for it to actually become part of your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Most people can't stick to that. And a lot of the time, life gets in the way, the day gets in the way, family gets in the way, whatever the situation is, there are always excuses for it. So even if people are well intentioned in wanting to improve their health or their life in whatever that looks like, it's really hard to actually do the thing and wake up every single day, rinse, repeat. So I do think that this is something that makes it way stickier. And that's kind of the feedback we've gotten. And also, I think something that's sort of understated, and we talked about this before we started recording, is we beta tested with crypto community members. Again, good beta testers, very good group to start with. But I don't think that the psychology of the average crypto user is necessarily aligned with like the average mainstream consumer. So we have different incentives for different types of users. For example, the yield that you could get in a game, and of course, nothing guaranteed. It depends on the game and the performance of other users. But one thing that is attractive from a crypto perspective is that if you hit your steps and you're joining a game, it might be a small yield, but you can get a yield on the deposit that you make and then earning some from a prize pool. It's like a PvP type of yield that if other people don't do what you're doing, you can make a little bit of money and benefit off of that. So that's attractive for crypto users. I think for non crypto users, human psychology basically is more that loss hurts more than gains feel good. So, holding yourself accountable, like you were saying, you don't want to lose $5, you're going to walk. I think that's going to be the experience for a lot of our users as we grow. And any money you earn off of that will just be a nice bonus, but you're feeling healthier, you're doing the action you want to do daily, you're sticking to your goals, which is very hard to do. And then there's a social perspective because we gamified the contest. You're competing against other people. So there's like a social dynamic. And a lot of people, even early on, have talked about the community part being really powerful for them of not doing the thing alone and having the support of other people that are there, even if it's virtual. We've seen communities form already, and it's kind of these fun little fitness groups that, if you feel like you want to be a part of something bigger than yourself and that will help you stick to your goals, then that's your motivation. So I think it was a very intricately designed sort of game that appeals to different people based on what drives them, which I think is kind of part of the early success that we've had, just depending on, who's using it and why.
Definitely, definitely. Well, and I've seen that too, in even just within the crypto space, like different NFT communities have had different games. Like I've done them with the Quecks, done them with Monkeys, done them with a couple other ones where it's like, hey, let's take this as like another step, like it's its own channel. Let's talk about it. And it's not as PvP as it sounds, right? Like
Mhm.
it's like everyone that I've been in has been very encouraging. Like if
Yeah.
anything, it's a battle against yourself to like
Mm.
not sit down on the couch and to like get outside and walk the dog, right?
Yeah. It is kind of deceiving, right? There is like a friendly competition aspect to it, which I think some people lean into. Like it makes you want to hit your steps, right? If other people can see how you're performing and whether you hit the goal or not. And, obviously the potential for money part, whether that's losing or gaining some. But
Yeah,
I mean, it's honestly, you are kind of just betting on yourself, right? It's
yeah,
not a gamble in the way that you don't know what the outcome's going to be. You're actually fully in control of that outcome, which I think is powerful. So it
yeah,
is more of you betting on yourself and competing with yourself than anyone else.
yeah. And it really like provides a way to for you to make space in your life to move is what I think of it as.
Yes.
But if I look at my history is not great. My yield is negative in the app. So I'm not the best case of this because you know, I've had some what we did last month, we did the full month of I don't know, the full last month, and it was a month-long competition. I think I lost about half.
Yeah.
And that's on me, right? Like I'm not mad about it. I knew that, there were some times we were sick and we got two kids, so had to take care of
Mhm.
them as well. So it was tough. So I didn't hit all my steps, but it's not like the end of the world. But
Right.
I also like people probably loved that I was in the game because I was their yield,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And you can
Yeah.
always, the cool thing with this too is that, like, even if your P&L technically is negative, really, and obviously, we want people to be hitting their goals every day, but that takes time. And like,
Yeah.
it doesn't always happen. There are always things that come up. I've missed days for sure, with travel and whatnot. But like, it's more about, and I think that this is missed very often with all of the very binary and aggressive health and wellness advice people give. It's more about what you're doing a majority of the time. So
Yeah.
even if maybe your yield on there is negative, one, that's something you can always improve on because it's a day by day sort of thing. And two, as long as you're still moving more than you did before you used the product, maybe you're losing a little money, but that's still net positive for you, right? You're
Yeah.
improving your life, hopefully physically, mentally in a better spot. That's still a win. So like
Oh, yeah.
best case is maybe you're like winning a little bit of money and you're healthier. Worst case, you're still mostly hitting step goals, maybe missing sometimes and like losing a little money but feeling great. So
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of designed in a way that even when you're losing, you're hopefully winning versus where you started out, which I think is something people tend to overlook.
Yeah, and I mean, the way that I look at it too is before Moonwalk, my step count was probably like sub 5,000 steps per day. Like like the graph of when I started, like it's literally my average has doubled since I
Mhm.
started doing Moonwalk. And, I've actually felt a ton better ever since I started it, right? Like sleep a little bit better. I normally go to the gym a couple times a week and call that a day, right? Like 1 hour in the gym, done. That's it. I'll sit around. I can work the rest of the day and not worry about it. But this kind of like keeps me accountable, keeps me moving. And then from that, I've been able to run a little bit better because I'm just, getting the motion in a little bit more. You get kind of like a little bit of active recovery. So you're not as sore after. Like the benefits like are incredible. Like when I look back, it's like, all right, I was probably heading down like a worse path if I stayed at 5,000 or below steps, where it's like Moonwalk really like turbo boosted it.
Yeah. No, that's like the best type of testimonial sort of response as well. Like, and we've gotten so many of those where the average American, give or take a little bit, walks on average 3 to 4,000 steps a day. That's one
Yeah,
and a half to 2 miles. That's not a lot. But technology and just cars and the way that cities are laid out has kind of taken away the natural ways in which we'd move our body. If you
yeah,
think back even a couple decades ago, right? So we have to consciously inject that movement into our day to sort of balance it out. It's not inherently happening quite as much. Maybe it
yeah,
does with certain jobs, and maybe you're spending time on your feet and doing more manual labor. For a lot of people, you have to like consciously do the thing, right? And you have to go
Yeah.
out of your way to move a little bit more or think about where it can fit in your day. And like we have been seeing even like 5 to 7,000 steps a day is great in comparison to doing less, right? And the cool thing with steps in something as simple as that is that even if you're not hitting like 10,000, like more is going to have a positive impact on everything that matters, even if it's like small, right? And you
Yeah.
can always incrementally like increase your benefits as you go with increasing your average steps. So like the small changes really do compound and make a massive difference. And I think a lot of people spend too much time on doing the dramatic thing rather than doing the practical things that really compound. So that's sort of what we're trying to inspire people with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, kind of like the way that I view health too. Like I'm like other outside of crypto, like I'm pretty involved in like health and fitness,
Hmm.
like outside of it. And it's crazy because in order to be like a like more of like a fit person, you kind of have to be on like the outskirts. Like you can't like I don't know. I feel like it's too easy to just kind of like get caught up in normal life and you're not a very healthy person. Like the standard American life, like isn't
Hmm.
necessarily that healthy, right?
Yeah.
So, as like New Year's resolutions come around, it's like, all right, I need to join this gym. Like right now is like prime time for the fitness industry. Like this is when they make all their money. They get all their gym signups. They last a couple months. People don't end up going, right? Like they make like
Hmm.
really like hardcore like, all right, I'm going to CrossFit, I'm going to run a marathon, and I'm
Hmm.
going to go keto. It's like you don't need to do all those things. Like really what you need to do is just move your body. If you
Yeah.
walk 10,000 steps, you're probably better off than all those and you probably won't get hurt, for doing
Right.
drastic thing.
Well, set realistic goals, right? I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
also the thing about goals is that you can always scale them up, right? So maybe you start with something small. Think about again, like psychologically, you want to like give yourself some dopamine hits early, right? Like give yourself some
Yeah.
wins, set yourself up to succeed on what you're setting the goal at. And then if you succeed at it, you can always raise the bar rather than I'm going to go 0 to 100 and maybe I stick with it for a week. You wonder why all the people go to the gym for 2 weeks and then burn out and never show up again. Like
Yeah.
set small goals and then scale it up, and you're going to have a much better time. But I feel like everyone's so worried about like not doing things fully, but it's like more sustainable to just like start slow and steady. Like it's like
Oh
the
yeah.
tortoise and the hare, right? Like slow and steady wins the race on most things that matter.
Yeah, no, 100%. And yeah, what's funny is I was gonna bring up like New Year's resolutions and all this, and I watched your video that you just put out the other day, and it's like, we're not doing New Year's resolutions this year. Just find something that's accountable, do some
Yep.
get into some competitions on Moonwalk. And what I liked about it too is in the beginning I like some of the games were pretty big. So it was
Hmm.
like there was like some 10 soul games, and I think there was even some
Yeah.
higher ones. And when you like put that much on the line, it's like I'm definitely not going to lose it. It's like so
Yep.
I like you set aside in my calendar, all right, I've got 2 hours for walking, maybe an hour in the morning, an hour
Yep.
later. And it's like 100% you're going to do it. And you get
Hmm.
to kind of pick what that is for you, right? Like
Yeah.
I found that a couple dollars a day, and it's still like in my mind, like I'm not going to lose it. But
Yeah.
if you
It
have a
depends
hundred,
on the person.
yeah, yeah. But if you have $100 on the line, like I'm getting those steps done early in the morning, they're completely done,
Yeah.
and I'm not losing. But the best part about the higher stakes games that I was in is everybody hit their goal, and I was kind of like,
Yeah.
good. I was kind of like, good for them. Like we
Yeah.
all we all did it. Like I wasn't like in my mind, it wasn't like, oh man, I wish I made some. It was more like, oh, they did good. Good for them.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of cool. Like the way that Moonwalk is set up is so flexible for different types of users. Like think about in more emerging type markets where maybe like 5 to 10 US dollars is like a significant amount, right? We
Yeah,
can do Moonwalk games as small as like 1 USD or 1 USDC. You could do games as large as we had a game with not many people in it, as you can imagine, when Sol was a little bit lower in price. It was 100 Sol entry deposit per person, and the step goal was like 30,000 steps a day. For one,
yeah,
don't recommend that. That wouldn't be on our public games page because that's sort of like counterintuitive to the, setting sustainable goals type of thing. But people
yeah,
want a challenge. We have private games for that reason where you can set whatever you want for that entry deposit and for the step goal. And a couple people missed steps, which is crazy. Think about if it was a 7-day contest, a seventh of 100 Sol goes to a prize pool, and that's split amongst like 5 people. People
yeah,
made some serious dough off of that, right? So some
yeah.
people, especially in this space too, need to put more on the line to feel something and to hold themselves accountable. Like money means
Yeah.
different things to different people. So I think it is kind of fun to see those high stakes games. But we've seen success in it with, like, to your point, with even like a couple of dollars and not wanting to lose that. So people can kind of choose their journey of,
Yeah.
what it will take for them to get it done.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I watched some of those high stakes games. It was crazy. I don't
Crazy.
know how people can walk 30,000 plus
A
steps
lot
in a
of
day.
free time.
Yeah, yeah, or just on a treadmill all day long. I think that's what Jesse came on here from All Domains, and I think early on she
Yep.
was walking like 30, 40,000 steps a day, and it was insane.
Yep. You need to have like the treadmill that you can do work on while you step at that point. Unless you're like rich and retired and don't have a job and you kind of have a schedule that's your own. Like it is hard to fit in beyond a certain amount. But we
Yeah.
see some pretty crazy user stats. So these people are stepping for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I feel like one of the things that I like the most about Moonwalk is when you bring people like into crypto, a lot of it is like come for, leverage trading, come for all these financial reasons, come to, buy an NFT, and people figure it out and they get on board it. But I feel like coming to crypto, coming onto Solana, like for an app like Moonwalk is such a better fit. Like it's a way more like sustainable type app, something that people will want to use for a long time. And they're not going to, get lost on 100x leverage. They're not going to lose everything they put into it, right? Every dollar that you
Yeah.
put into Moonwalk, as long as you hit the goal, you get back, right? So I feel
Mhm.
like it's such like a positive way to bring people into this space. And, I'm sure that you guys are going to be abstracting away a lot of the actual crypto, like you don't necessarily, or you're not going to need crypto is what you said before. So I think it's a
Yeah.
great way to bring people to the space outside of, like financial degeneracy.
Yeah. I mean it's kind of nice. We've seen a pretty big surge of consumer apps that sort of differentiate the use cases and kind of bringing more fun and maybe practicality to like what people do and how on chain.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, it's great. We've heard a lot of stories. I mean, you mentioned before this, you got your wife on board to Moonwalk. That's amazing. Like my mom
Yeah.
is asking me, and I've been in crypto for 2020, and like this is the first thing that my mom has asked me about. When's the app gonna be live? Because I want to use it. When can I download it? She wants to use it, and it's really cool. I've heard a lot of stories of people onboarding their friends and their family and their spouses, and it's just something that I think is a little bit more easily explainable than, for example, oh, here is this obscure DeFi protocol. You can make a lot of money on it, but you probably just need to like set your money there and like forget it, or you need to do these very complex steps. This is
Yeah.
such a simple concept, and I think the benefits of it to people from multiple perspectives are really clear. So it is like we've talked to a lot of teams that either want to use it as an onboarding tool for something they're working on with like maybe non-crypto native audiences. And we've also seen like NFT projects and other communities that maybe they don't have a regular touch point for their group and their group is global and maybe a little bit detached. How do you bring them together to do something that's good for them that people will buy into? And they're doing like private or gated or public moonwalk games. And it's
Yeah.
something they've done on a recurring basis because, to your point, it is something that people want to use and come back to day in and day out. So I think there's a good feedback loop there. And for
Yeah.
onboarding, even with the product now, which in my opinion, very much not to where we're trying to go with it. And of course, the UI UX can be very much improved. We'll talk about kind of V1 of the iOS app and how that'll help. But it speaks to the demand and the desire for people to use it, and we're very early. I know that's a meme, but for like where our team is and where we're going with the product, it's still very early. So it's a good
Yeah.
sign to see
Yeah.
that level of interest in onboarding. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think it's a pretty good, like, unique use of crypto in general, right? Like
Mhm.
sending money, holding it, sending it back out in increments. I feel like that's a pretty cool use case for crypto in general.
Mhm.
And it's easy enough that, like you said, I got my wife onboarded. And there's a story behind this. So my wife typically walks a ton. Like when we like early on in our relationship, she would just go on walks. I always thought it was really weird. That was like her way of just kind of, unwinding a little bit. She'd go on walks.
Mhm.
But lately she hasn't really been doing them. And I've been walking like crazy. I walk around our living room. I do circles at night just to make sure I get my steps sometimes. So I onboarded her into the app because she's been seeing me do it, and she got on board. I provided the bonk for her to get into a competition, and we both got really sick, and neither of us hit our goal. So we lost like half. It was a full month-long competition, which already
Oh
is a
man.
little. It was kind of a rough onboarding. As far as going, it should have been like a week or a couple
Yeah.
days. But we went for the whole month. I provided the bonk, and we got less than half the bonk back. So it wasn't the most successful, competition wise, but she successfully got on, and she's coming back for another competition. We'll get there. We'll get there.
The longer games are a little bit brutal to start with,
Yeah.
especially with, we've had a lot of people, and I've experienced this too, when you're traveling or maybe you get sick. Like, I think longer games with like maybe a lower step goal, I call it
Yeah.
like maintenance mode, right? Like,
Yeah.
even if I'm not well or I'm traveling or something, I still want to do like 6,000 steps a day to make sure I'm moving. I think games like that are good. I think higher step goals for really long games are challenging, and like, love a challenge. People want that, but they should know going in, like, a lot of stuff can get in the way, and you just definitely
Yeah.
have to be like conscientious of that creeping up. You also never know when you're going to be sick. So
Yeah. Yeah.
usually I think most games are within 5 days to 2 weeks, I would say, was probably the average of typical game length, and that
Yeah.
seems to work pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely does. It was a little aggressive on my end.
She
But
came back though, so that's good signal. That's good.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and one thing that I want to talk about is the usability of the app. So I was an early user on Stepin, right? Used Stepin, and it was horribly annoying to walk with, right? You had to have an NFT, you had to buy some token, and you had to maintain your stupid shoe. Like there was so many things that you had to do to just walk that it wasn't enjoyable. So we don't get good service in our town where we live. So like sometimes I wouldn't get paid for walking, and I'd get pissed. But I feel like the whole incentive structure of Stepin was wrong, right? And it was like terrible to actually use. Somehow there was millions of users on it, but whatever. But I feel like Moonwalk is like the complete opposite of that, where it just passively tracks your steps. Like
Hmm.
you don't have to do anything. Like you just need to sign up into the app, deposit, and then just walk, right? Like you guys have your own step tracking app. We'll take a look at that and hit your 10,000 steps, and that's it, right? Like all you need to do is the work. There is no additional work, or you don't have to do anything else, right? And that's what I love about
Yeah.
it.
Well, I mean, and you bring up a good point of conversation. We've had people bring up step in all the time.
Yeah.
And, testament to them, sign of the times, I think, as well. But with user numbers, like they crushed it for a while. They were like
Yeah.
the
It was
leading
huge.
consumer app with highest number of users that crypto had ever seen, right?
Yeah.
I never used it. So when I got kind of the demo of how it worked and, how it operated, and they're still operating today in a very similar fashion, it blows my mind that they had so many users. It's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
crazy to think about, but it kind of speaks to like the user experience that was accepted at the time. We're in a different time now, right? So
Yeah.
it was used a lot. It's very, very different incentive structures. People see walking in crypto and think that we're the same, but they're just drastically contrasting incentive structures and game mechanics.
Yeah.
Um, I think the step to earn style with a token that's native to the platform was in itself extremely inflationary and unsustainable. I'm
Yeah.
not a big fan of an X to earn style anything, because at the end of the day, someone has to foot the bill to keep that going up and being attractive for people to even use it, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are you earning and why do I want to put in the work to earn it? It needs to be a value, and hopefully you would assume that it will go up in value if it's something that you're
Yeah.
trying to like accumulate. So I don't think that was great. I don't think that having to buy NFTs in order to use the platform and understanding that is necessarily sticky or easy to onboard to. I think the less that people need to check the app when they're doing the activity, the better, especially when it's fitness related. I don't want to be walking and having to like press buttons in an app while I'm walking or running. I just want to do the activity and know that it's tracked and not have to worry about it. So that's something we thought about a lot. And there's
Yeah.
been a lot of kind of like different fitness apps, whether crypto native or not, that have done things very differently. But we're very strategic with, it should be as easy as possible to sign up, to onboard, and to have your steps tracked and to be involved in a game. There should be
Yeah.
as little friction as possible in that sort of onboarding and starting process, because every step or friction point you add, you'll see drop off. And like people will drop off of using your product before they even start. That's a bad look. So for Moonwalk, yeah, you connect with a step tracker. That could be Apple Health or through kind of our native iOS app called Moon Boots, which integrates with Apple Health data if you have an iPhone or you're using an Apple Watch. A lot
Mhm.
of people are Android native. If you don't have a fitness wearable, a lot of people are connecting using Google Fit. We're compatible with them. And we're also compatible with or integrated with, I guess, Fitbit data too. So whether you're wearing a fitness wearable or you're using the app natively on your phone, you have to have your phone when you're doing the activity, obviously, but most people have their phones on them. Um,
Yeah.
Fitness wearables track a little bit more accurately, but we don't want to tell people what hardware to use and what step tracker to use. We just want them to know that what they're using is supported. And we're working to get more mainstream types like Garmin, like having that data. It's just a process with each one separately. But we want to have it be as wide a net as possible. So then that's not a friction point of someone getting started with us.
Yeah, and one side note for anyone with kids out there, use the Google Fit app if you're rocking your baby because you get steps on Google Fit, but not in Apple.
Cheating.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're moving around still, so it
Okay.
still somewhat qualifies.
I know. I'm like not sitting rocking. Do some steps while you're rocking at least.
Yeah, yeah. My
Yeah.
my wife my wife loved Moonwalk early on because she'd be like, "Oh, well, don't you want to go rock the baby?" I'd be like, "No, not really." She's like, "Well, you probably need some steps, so let's go in there and do it."
Yeah,
So
movement's movement, right? It could
yeah,
be like
exactly.
tiny steps in like a baby's room, like rocking them while you walk or something. It's not
Yeah,
steps or steps. So they
yeah,
should be tracked no matter what you're doing or where you're at, which is always
yeah.
good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, like you said before, it also, if you have a treadmill, it counts those too. So,
Mhm.
you can kind of pick your poison, I guess, for how you're gonna walk, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that
for
sounds good.
sure.
Cool. Well, what else do we need to go over? Should we go over like how this app was founded, like how they originally started it?
Yeah. So KW, he goes by Forculus. He's anonymous, but uh Quex community guy. I see your Quex shirt that you're wearing on this. Not
Oh,
that
yeah,
anyone
got the
listening can
merch.
see.
Got the
Yeah.
merch on.
Good ducks. So actually during a bear market, he and some other friends. Typically in a bear market, you see a lot of people. There's sort of two paths that you can take when things are bad, right? You can give in to bad vices, or you can make an effort to stay healthy and take care of yourself. That's something that's a variable you can control regardless of anything else going badly. So he's in this group chat with some kind of crypto OG types. And in the bear market, they decide that they're going to put crypto punks on the line to see who can lower their body fat percentage the most and like do something healthy with it, right? Obviously, Moonwalk today looks a little bit different from that, but it changed his life, lost a ton of weight, totally different person, very health focused and oriented, never went back. And the thinking there was, how can I bring how I feel and the experience I've had to as many people as possible in a way that's scalable and easy to onboard to. So that's kind of the genesis of Moonwalk is directly from that. Um, and we're very much living that mission now, but it started slightly different with body fat over steps. But
Yeah.
steps obviously being one of the easiest things that you can do. You don't need equipment. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter your financial situation or anything like that. So very easily accessible, which I think was kind of the idea there.
Yeah, yeah. That's such a cool story. I love that one.
Yeah.
It's cool that that's where it came from, but what it developed into, right? Like they saw, all right, these are the benefits that we're getting. Like, how do we bring those out to other people? And I feel like the way that they designed everything is awesome. Like like we've talked about the incentives, how they get them right, how people come back to it, how there's like a community to it, there's a social aspect to it. I feel like a lot of those are hard to find these days, right?
Mhm.
And when you do, it's like you kind of latch onto them and just keep going.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think it was designed to be very, very sticky. And we've seen that so far in like early user data and just feedback that we've gotten anecdotally from a lot of users. Like it definitely is truly that. And it was just a really, really smartly designed product. And you can see, like, if you want to speculate on the different ways that it could go, you could gamify a lot of different things within this basic structure. It would just have to be a little bit different in the details depending on what you're tracking, how you're gamifying it, different game modes, that sort of thing. But it can be pretty broadly applied, which is like something that we plan to do over time. There are just, some more baseline things that we want to get squared away first and make sure the user experience is super killer.
Yeah, yeah, which it is. So I'm loving it. And one of the things that I like about it too is like it's very positive. Like one of the things that I wanted to bring up was like how positive your Twitter account is. I feel like it's crypto Twitter, like my crypto Twitter account, it follows a bunch of crazy people. Most of them have mental illness that's like half euphoric, half depressed,
Yep.
people going crazy, and then it's you saying like, "Hey, check out this cool place I went on a walk," or "Would you like to
Yeah.
go on a walk? Here, I'm walking with my family." It's like it's very uplifting, and I'd like to thank you for it. So keep
Oh,
that up.
thank you. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, finding Moonwalk for me was like the most possible, like perfect possible job fit I've ever seen in my life for anyone. But I for years now, since gosh, probably 2019 or 2020, I used the hashtag get outside and went for a walk every single day. I've been on
Oh
Twitter for
God.
like a decade, super heavy. I was a finance major in college. I had a professor recommend it to me. I've been very involved for a long time, always yapping. And walking is always, I was like an XD1 soccer recruit. I've always been an athlete. My whole family's very active. So it's been like a core of my life for a long time. So very personally aligned. And my
Yeah.
Twitter has always been that way too. When I worked in finance, I was using the hashtag get outside. I raised a bunch of money for charity, Feeding America one time by making get outside merch. Other people would be like all these finance bros would be posting that they're out for their walk and tagging me. So like it was a very natural fit. And like
Yeah.
that's why it doesn't there's something to be said for, and obviously the origin story of Moonwalk is this way as well, which I think is really powerful. Purpose driven work and doing
Yeah.
something that you fully believe in, where it's never a shill. I got people asking me that early on. They're like, "Do you actually believe in all this, or is this something that you're just doing for the job?" It's like this is so authentic, and like everyone that's involved with it, all of the users and the user stories that we've had, and the people that are kind of shilling it on their own just because they love the product. It's very genuine. And honestly, let's be real, the world has enough negativity. We don't need more of
Yeah.
it.
No,
So I
100%.
think to be in a spot with any sort of audience, which I have and that the Moonwalk account has, and you're doing something positive that is market agnostic, right? Like a lot of people in crypto are very tied to the price of their bags and that affects their mood and kind of where they're at. We're in a position where Moonwalk is market agnostic. You can walk and take care of yourself in any market condition, and you can and you should. You can earn yield off of other players in games, regardless of market condition, regardless of Soul Bonk or up or down. It's just something you can do all the time, and it's something that's just so positive ROI that like the messaging is inherently very positive, and I think it does brighten up people's days, just as the product does, which is such a cool spot to be. And we've gotten a lot of feedback on that, just being kind of like a force for good. And you don't see that enough in this space because there's a lot of like cash grab opportunities and people that are more short term oriented or,
Yeah.
the sort of pump and dump type things. It's very easy to focus on those things, but for us, we're always going to focus on the positive, and that's what we're doing with the product. We're living it every day, and our users are doing that too. So I think hopefully through this, not only do we make people healthier, but I think it's going to create a very positive community too, which is positive or powerful in itself. So I love to see it.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. It sounds like a natural fit. And it kind of goes to like how kind of viral it went in the beginning, right? Like they released like a beta version of it in the beginning, like right before one of the crypto events, and like
Yep.
people were like begging for invites to it. And like I was in it, I was like, so they're just begging to walk? But it's like they wanted to be kind of like part of the community. They wanted to be in it. Like you see people in there that you really only seen on Twitter before.
Yep.
It kind of takes it to the next level. So it's definitely grown. Like I don't know like what the numbers are or anything, but from like an outside perspective, it seems like it really, really took off, and it took off really quick.
Yeah. I mean, just speaking to the numbers like loosely, we've had tens of thousands of signups. In terms of kind of people who are coming back and using the platform very regularly, we have a Moonwalk Ascent, which is kind of our experience points leaderboard. And that's all catering towards, it's not like a botted leaderboard that you can earn XP from doing things that aren't related to using the product. It's very action focused. So even getting XP for referrals doesn't count unless the person you referred joins a game, right? So very driven towards action versus like doing the things that aren't actually driving impact. for yourself and for others. So for this leaderboard, I think we have around like 5,500 people on our leaderboard for over a certain amount of XP, just to show that they're like using the product and have been coming back, which I think is
Awesome.
great.
Yeah.
And the stickiness of users has been quite high. Daily active users kind of depends on like the number of games that are live and like what you're participating in on a given day. Some people take a couple days between and then join more. So that's a little bit more variable. But I mean, the user base that we have has been really, really strong. We've seen a lot of pretty high user retention for not having an app that's necessarily interactive yet, which we're going to very soon.
Yeah.
And that'll make it easier to, have notifications and add more social elements to it that make you come back and kind of form community closer and participate in events and build your own little walking tribe, if you will. So
Yeah.
early numbers are good. People are raving on it, which is pretty cool too. Um, and of course, always trying to onboard communities that already exist who want healthy activation. So if anyone is listening to this, crypto or otherwise, it is a really fun thing to like get step contests set up for your group. You can do it privately if you want. We've seen teams use it as a marketing opportunity, putting up like prize pools and their token or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be to like, spread awareness for themselves and get in front of a new audience. That's pretty cool too. But I mean, really early innings of this product. Like it launched earlier this year. I was in the early days of it as well when people were kind of fighting to get on there. I want to
Yeah.
say the first game was in February or March. So to see, I wasn't working full time with Moonwalk until I think the beginning of June, but I was using the product every single day before that very
Yeah.
heavily. And just to see how it's grown has been really, really cool in such a
Yeah.
short amount of time.
Yeah. No, it definitely has. And I checked the leaderboard before, and I'm the 146th best moonwalker in the
Oh,
world right now.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So the Moonwalk Ascent leaderboard basically is, I mean, everyone loves a leaderboard. It's fun to gamify the
Oh yeah.
experience a little bit more, see where you stack up. And also, I mean, there's also the potential in depending on where you stack up and like the XP that you accumulate to make yourself eligible for future rewards, whatever those may be. So I think that's like another fun element to it that really resonates with the crypto crowd, but everyone's competitive. So everyone likes to see where they stack up. Even if it's arbitrary, it doesn't necessarily matter. It just gamifies it a little bit more. And it's pretty easy to, figure out how you can climb up the leaderboard. It's join games and hit your step goals, which all
Yeah.
align with the like living healthier too. So it just kind of helps to motivate people a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I had like 2.3 million steps on there. It's wild to see those
Amazing.
numbers in aggregate, right?
Yeah.
Like put them all together, it really adds up.
Yeah,
Um,
it just compounds, right? Like you kind of
yeah.
look back and see the stats. I'm like, I want to see mine now, actually. I haven't looked in a while. It's
Yeah.
funny. I wasn't optimizing on games for XP earning either. I was like joining one game at a time, always making sure I was in one. And now I'm like trying to stack in multiple games and, you know, get my steps in every single day and hit the goals and everything like that. But like one of our co-founders, I think, is coming up on like 5 million steps in Moonwalk, which
Oh,
is
really?
crazy. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure
Oh,
KW mentioned that. I could be wrong. Nam joins every single game. So he's
yeah.
he's got a serious number of games under his belt and always stepping. So the whole team sort of lives it too, which I think is kind of fun. And that's more like
Yeah.
testament to the product too. But I am Ascent ranked 52.
Oh,
So
wow.
I've got to get
Wait, it's
I've got to get
flexing on
going.
me.
I
Yeah.
was higher than that before, so
Right.
people are really leveling up. I mean, it's like an honor to be booted down because it means that people are like very heavily using the product. But yeah, I mean, we have like thousands of people competing and trying to climb up. I get people sending me their ascent rankings like every day, which is so cool.
It's really cool. So I just got my Spotify Wrapped playlist for like the end of the year,
Hmm.
and what I was thinking about before you came on, I was like, I want my Wrapped for Moonwalk. Like, I want to see like how many steps I got this year. Like,
Yeah,
show my steps from like before I started Moonwalk and show after, because like the graph would just be like straight up.
right. Okay, so first of all, I literally was talking about this with someone today. Strava, which is like the biggest non-crypto fitness app for like runners and walkers, whatever. They did like a Strava Wrapped, basically like a year end,
Oh
and I would
yeah.
love to do one next year. We have to have more data tracking a little bit and kind of clean that up and be able to present that for people. But in the meantime, do you use an iPhone?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Go into your Apple Health data, look at your steps, and you can see what your monthly averages were. So you could see depending how long you've been tracking, you could see a rough estimate of like what you were doing before and what your average is now.
You know, well, maybe I'll do that later.
Yeah,
Or
it's
do you
like
want me to?
it's pretty crazy. You don't have to do it right now, but if you do want to check that, you can do it in there for sure.
Yeah, it's insane. Like the last six, yeah, I guess I thought mine was higher. My daily average of the last 6 months is 8,300.
That's
But
great
bef-
though.
but before that, it was probably way less.
8,300 is great, by the way. Anywhere between like 7 and 9 or 10K a day is like a sustainable level. I mean, there's tons of research on, what the ultimate number is, but most of it levels out to being between 7 and 9,000 because where you're getting optimal benefits for the increase in steps that you're doing between like, I don't know, 12 to 15K, it sort of starts more plateauing for benefits that you're getting per added steps. Not to get too nerdy on it. So like setting that 7 to 10, 9,000 range is like your daily sort of maintenance of what you want to hit is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I think I read a book earlier this year. I think it was called Good Energy by Casey
Mhm.
Means. And it was like, all right, all you really need to do is get 7,000 steps a day.
Yep.
And then it's like a 50 to 70% reduction in all cause mortality.
Yes.
So like you literally have a 50% chance, less chance of dying from
It's
just walking
incredible.
7,000 steps. Like it's a little dark, but it's insane to think about that, from just a small change. Even though I, lost a little bit of bonk in the last month, my average step count was well over 7,000, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, there's something to be said for the small actions that pile up that you do every single day over the big things that don't last. Like I know I was talking about that with resolutions. Like sometimes you need to hit people with that data because they don't really think about how impactful something like walking can be or running. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter how you get your steps, but like it's overlooked. The little things that compound are actually the big things. And like the stuff that sticks where it becomes part of your lifestyle versus like a thing that you try to do is just like insane. For like every health metric that matters is probably going to have a positive impact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, that's a great book.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a really good book. It was a game changer. But yeah, I think that it's another part too, where when I think of crypto Twitter, I think of a lot of really unhealthy people,
Yep.
where it's like a lot of them are probably the type of people that need something like this. They need the motivation, they need to put a little bit of money up, and it could like seriously help them.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you probably hear more feedback than I have, but I mean, at least for me personally, it feels great.
Yeah.
If I get my 10,000 steps, like I'm probably sleeping way better that night, you know?
Yeah. It helps with sleep. It helps with like your body kind of regulating itself, your circadian rhythm, all of that fun stuff. It helps with focus. It helps with
Yeah.
energy, especially if you're doing all of that activity like early in the day. But I mean, yeah, this is a space of people who live in the extremes, and there are some really big negatives that come with that. So you have to, you know, put the effort in to take care of yourself. And that's like such an edge that I don't think a lot of people realize. You see people that are trying to compete and like they don't even take care of themselves. How can they take care of anything else in their life? Right. And people don't think
Yeah.
about it that way a lot of the time. But if you're making an effort for, being the best version of yourself, everything else that you do in your life is probably going to be better too. Or you're
Yeah.
putting yourself in a better position anyways. So stay off the big soapbox there. But I mean, this space was kind of the perfect test environment for Moonwalk in the way that it's a lot of very unhealthy people who could make small changes that would very positively benefit them. And it's just like a pretty unhealthy culture. But we've even seen like Solana ecosystem is interesting because there are a lot of very health oriented people in it. It's
Yeah.
different than some other, chains and ecosystems I've participated in, and it's pretty clear. Um, so it was a good spot to start. But people can
Yeah.
always improve their health. That's the fun thing about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And you mentioned that you guys will have an app coming out soon. I think that that's going to be a game changer too, because even when I got my wife on board, it's like, all right, let's get your Phantom wallet out. She's like, what's that? So I feel like there's like those initial kind of steps where it's like, all right, we got to on ramp some money on, or I'll send her money, that type of thing. Where, when you have the app, maybe it's not necessarily crypto they're using, or they just don't see that behind the curtain type thing. I feel like that is going to be a pretty big game changer. And I feel like it's Solana where you're really able to like abstract that away, right?
Totally agree. I think an app is going to be such a massive unlock. If you think about even onboarding someone, right? Your wife is lucky because she has someone that's very comfortable with the traditional crypto experience of going in a web browser, setting up a wallet, funding the wallet. You could send her money to do that. So that kind of removes that part of the equation, which is very difficult for a lot of people and very off putting. An app and being able to tell someone, go into the app store, which you are already familiar with, that you interact with all the time. There's an element of trust there almost of being able to find something in the app store versus going online. And you
Yeah.
can easily download it. The entire experience is all in one place. That in itself, in terms of user experience, is just going to 100x like how simple it is and how easy and desirable it is for people to start and come back.
Yeah.
For onboarding, also, right now, it's either a major crypto wallet that you log in with, SPL wallet, or you can email your Gmail via tip link. We did an
Oh
integration with
yeah.
them, but that's still more crypto focused, right? Even with tip link, it's like it's like kind of a Web3 wallet that they sort of manage. You have a login, whatever, but it's still like on the crypto side of things.
Yeah.
The login, think about, and this is where we're going with all of it. Think about where the average person and what their user experience logging onto an app or creating a profile usually looks like. They sign in with
Yeah.
phone number, they sign in with email, they sign in with Discord, they sign in with Twitter, whatever the case may be. Those are the familiar ways that people sign onto an app. It's very easy. We want
Yeah.
to have that at the forefront of like what the experience is for non-crypto native people. If there are crypto users that want to use a wallet to sign in, that's going to be available too, but it's not going to be the thing that we push. It's going to be something that's kind of like a more options drop down, and you can do it that way. So the people who
Yeah.
want it will know where it is, but it's not going to be us trying to force this crypto onboarding experience to people who don't want it and don't need it.
Yeah.
When so our iOS app at the time of this conversations and kind of in approval process and finalizing for V1, obviously took a lot behind the scenes from like a technical perspective to get everything ironed out. And there's a lot that we've been working on, but iOS app will come first, then a couple weeks later, working with Android app and have that live in Google Play Store. A lot of our users are international in places where Androids are prominent, so that's like a massive priority to have both. But
Yeah.
it's going to be so much more seamless. You're going to have the entire experience and tracking your steps and joining games and seeing your stats. You're going to have more stats that you can dive into. You're going to see your like historical performance more than just your P&L and L, and if that's red or green. It's all going to be in one place, and it's going to be in a way more elevated UI. It's going to be something that you can get notifications on. You can add your friends. Eventually, we'll add in social components because I think that's something that's going to be very important. Of like, you have these groups that you formed. How do you connect with those groups? Can you create private and public groups for different communities? Can you chat with them? Can you host in-person events and let people know about it if you want them to know about it? If someone's in a specific city, maybe you have a Miami meetup. Do you want to open that up and let any user of Moonwalk see that event and they can participate in it? Like there's an element of kind of like the personal connection and the social side that we can enhance a lot. And then
Yeah.
of course, once we have everything in an app that's been approved and we can add in adjustments and enhancements and different types of contests, different activities, like it just is opening up the floodgates on what the experience can look like. And if you think about something like Duolingo, I use as like the gold standard on kind of the way to gamify and keep people
Oh
coming
yeah.
back. Not a fitness app, but they do such an incredible job with nudges and reminding people that they exist and that they have a streak going, that they should come back and use it again. In time
Yeah.
on app for Duolingo, I mean, I think they do a very good job of keeping people coming back and using the product. So we're going to go after a model similar to that in kind of our own twist. Um, but an app is going to be so big. It's just going to unlock so much. And end state, not necessarily V1, but the end state of where we're going, which has a lot of moving parts, will be that a user can come on, they can log in with phone number or email, whatever they want. They automatically get them put in a game. We make that part super immediate and like as few steps as possible, whether it's a free game or paid, whatever. So they can try out the product and they're already in a game, and we'll come back to it hopefully with very little issue. And then to be able to join games, eventually it's going to be with credit card, with Apple Pay, with bank account, with fiat. It is
Yeah.
going to be fiat focused and maybe swaps on the back end of on-chain transactions. But if there's a crypto component to it, the user doesn't need to know or care about it. It's just a
Yeah.
product that works that they want to get involved with because it makes sense and it's fun. So kind of a long ramble there, but an app is going to be such a massive unlock for us, and like the growth potential is going to be significantly higher because at the end of the day, crypto is a very fast growing space and there's like a very vibrant, loud community, but at the end of the day, it's still a small bucket within the grander scheme of the world. And Moonwalk's PMF, or like a total addressable market as well, is so much bigger.
Yeah.
It's just like something to make people healthier. And like if you have legs that are functional, which is most of the world, obviously still missing some, and we could add in some fun features maybe later on for um people with various types of disabilities and whatnot too. I think that'd be super cool, make it more accessible. But like if you have legs that work and you can step, it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing, you can use this product. And maybe
Yeah.
you're someone that's already healthy. Well, you can use this to maybe earn a little bit of money for what you're already doing. Maybe you're a
Yeah.
fitness influencer, you have a community, you don't know how to activate them. You can host games, you can have a group. Maybe you're someone that just wants to get healthier and nothing has worked. This is a great thing for that too. So there's just a lot of potential, and the net is so wide. But we need to have the experience all in one place, and it needs to be like elevated and gamified more to keep reminding people to come back, because no one's thinking of your product as much as you are
Yeah.
ever. That's the case for anything. So we just need to make it stupid simple and
Yeah.
fun
Yeah. But I mean, it is pretty simple now, right? Like, I guess I'm
for a
probably,
crypto product.
yeah, 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 yeah. So
Yeah,
like, I'm not
relatively
gonna, I'm
speaking.
not
Yeah,
your yeah, like, I'm not your target market. Yeah, like, you've already got me, right?
yeah,
So it's like really, it's easy enough for me, but
totally.
I can totally see all of those aspects. Like Duolingo is incredible with their feedback. I can think of the sound that you hear when you get a word right, right?
Mhm, exactly.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Let's see. Anything else that we actually, one thing about it, I saw in there that there's credits. Is that something so you can like, is that something where you can like buy credits and send somebody credits to onboard? Is that live
Yes.
now, or is that, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for mentioning that. We do have credits. It hasn't been heavily marketed because there are like, some bugs and tweaks that have been had to be made throughout the process, but you can use crypto, buy credits, like one
Mhm.
credit's equal to one USD. And you could see how maybe we move over to an all credits model in the future. It's just kind of like an arcade. I think it's way cleaner
Yeah.
than having different denominations and different tokens for game entries and whatnot. This would make them to other users. You need their username. Obviously, don't want to mess that up when you're sending things in the ether,
Yeah.
but um, you can buy credits. You can buy them for yourself to enter into games, or you can send them to others. We did a Moonwalk push-up contest. I'm not sure if you were at Breakpoint. We
No, I
I
wasn't.
held up a sign with Marbius on our team, and it said a
Uh,
dollar in Moonwalk game credits for every push-up you do. We had like 120, 150 people participate. It was crazy.
that
Didn't
was
pay for a
awesome.
booth, nothing. And I sent credits to all of these people. Like some of them
Oh,
did
it's
like 100
amazing.
something push-ups. If they had a Moonwalk login, I sent them basically the equivalent of like $120 in game credits that they could use. So that's a good
Awesome.
model in the interim for
Yeah.
trying to onboard people. Um,
Yeah.
that's something that we haven't talked about a lot yet, but I want to include that as kind of end of year marketing. I think it's fun. Give your friends a gift of health, right? Like and
Yeah.
fitness
No, I think
accountability. And if you want to make it easier,
yeah, I
yeah,
100% think that. I saw that and was like, man, that is like when I sent my wife the bonk, I was like, I should have just sent credits over because that's exactly what that was for, right?
yeah. Bonk works too, for sure.
Or yeah,
But if crypto, gosh, the credits are like a pretty clean way to do that too.
yeah, yeah. One of the platforms that I put this podcast out on is Drip House, and they use all
Yep.
droplets over there. So I guess it would be kind of similar to that. So yeah,
Yeah, for
cool.
sure.
Sounds good. Let's see. I got a couple rapid fire questions. Do you still have some more time?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. So you need to do 1,000 more steps and it's already nighttime. What's your go-to to get that last 1,000 steps?
Walk around the kitchen island if I
Kitchen
have
Island?
one. And if it's
Just,
yes,
just,
pacing in my apartment.
yeah,
Yep.
sounds good. Sounds good. Mine's my living room, and my daughter will see me doing it, and sometimes she'll ask me like, "Do you need to do any more steps? Did you get all your steps? Let's get some steps." And she'll start walking around the
Yeah.
couch. So
It's
it's
amazing.
hilarious. Um, Let's see. Favorite shoes to go walking in. I need new walking shoes. I do on clouds, but I need new ones.
On Cloud, Cloud Monster 2.
Okay, okay. Cloud Monster
They're
2. I'll
great.
have to look that up. Yeah, you go through shoes a little bit quicker when you're walking a lot more, huh?
Yeah, you kind of put some miles on them pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Let's see. Any New Year's resolutions that you're willing to share?
I'm not a believer in resolutions actually, because if I want to do something, I just do the thing. I don't wait until a new calendar year.
Okay. Okay. Well,
More
mine's
steps in the new year.
more steps. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Mine's touching my toes. So, yeah.
Stretching's so important. No, I
Yeah.
have a tweet in my Twitter drafts right now. No one ever tells you as an adult that you need to stretch more, and it's so important. So I think
Yeah.
that's a great one, stretching more every day.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been able to touch my toes in a long time. So, we'll see if it ends up happening. It's one of those ones that's never stuck for me.
I
So,
believe in you. Add it to the routine. Do it before your moonwalks.
yeah. Yeah. That's a good plan. That's a good plan. Let's see. Favorite podcast or music to walk to.
Andrew Huberman podcast, Huberman Labs.
Yeah, he's so good.
So good. Such great guests.
Yeah, such great guests, and I feel like yeah. I mean, such good information for free.
Totally.
I really like his podcast. Even the long ones, like some of them are like
They
three,
fly
4 hours
by.
long. Yeah, they really do.
Fascinating. Yeah. And they're
Yeah,
like generally they get nerdy with it, but for the most part you can follow them because they tend to bring it back to more basic terms or stop and explain, which I appreciate because I feel like it could go over everyone's head otherwise.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Sounds good. Let's see. Favorite user feedback that you've got so far, if you can
Oh,
share.
oh gosh, like in terms of like like a kind of user story or what they want to see next in the
Yeah,
app.
yeah. What like just a user story.
Uh, we've had some stories about users saying that this product literally saved their life. They were like in a very bad place mentally and like borderline suicidal, very depressed, very unhappy, and that doing this every single day literally saved their life, which is pretty powerful and like really got me for sure. Like super moving. And then on the more sort of lighter side, Maurice, shout out to Maurice from Lulo, like one of my favorites, one of our ambassadors. He used to like basically go on tour with professional cyclists and repair bikes. He was always a big cycler, very active. And he said when he started in crypto, he kind of fell out of that and was pretty unhealthy for a while. Starting with Moonwalk, he started remembering that all of the healthy things that he used to love doing. And it literally created this super positive snowball effect of I quit smoking, I quit eating unhealthy, like my diet got way better. I dropped like 5 or 10 pounds without even trying. I'm walking every day. I'm getting back to cycling. I'm tuning up my bike. Like those are the stories. He stopped drinking too, I'm pretty sure, which is just like unbelievable. And I think kind of showing more big picture of what this is about because it's not just about getting steps. It's about feeling better and knowing what that can do for your life and it'll encourage you to do more healthy things. So that was a
Yeah.
really really cool one as well.
That is pretty cool, and, Maurice was actually just on the show yesterday talking about Lulo.
The
So,
best.
yeah, I didn't even bring up Moonwalk, I should have brought it up, he was pretty focused on, like, "Let's keep it to
Yeah,
Lulo."
yeah, yeah.
But, like, good for him, you know, I actually offered him wine after, my wife's a winemaker, and he was like, maybe my fiancé will take it, but I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
really
yeah.
want it," kinda thing, or maybe he did stop drinking.
You love to hear it though. It's like I think very much like underscores the healthy habits beget healthy habits type of motto that I mention a lot.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I feel like that's like the core of what Moonwalk's doing. So I really like what Moonwalk's doing. I'm going to keep using it. And thank you for like continuing to push it because I think that it's amazing. I think you guys are helping a lot of people. And tell the listeners where they can find Moonwalk and how to reach out if they want to.
Totally. Yeah. So if you want to reach out to me, I'm terminally on Twitter. So my handle is dead Kate Bounce. Kate is CAIT. Moonwalk is on Twitter at Moonwalk Fitness. So that's a good place for updates. We also have like a community Telegram that's linked in our highlights. We have all of our official links to like all of our different social media platforms and whatnot are on there. So if people want to follow, there's a whole list in the highlights tab of our Twitter. And I mean, we're going to have updates very, very soon, hopefully on iOS app and then following that, the Android app launch. So stay tuned. No telling on timing there, but hopefully should be soon. And we can get more people onboarded to this for the new year and kind of step into like a more healthy routine, pun intended. That should be super exciting. So follow along on Twitter, most likely, for the updates there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I definitely recommend the app. I think that 2025 is going to be a great year. I think you guys should be definitely taking your 10,000 steps if you can, and it should at least try it out, right?
Yeah, for sure. Even if you fall flat, if you're moving more than you were before you tried it, you're winning.
It's a win. It's definitely
Yeah.
a win. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show. It's great to meet you. And as soon as you guys release that app, let's come back on.
Yeah, no, you too. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks a lot. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in to Solana Weekly. Once again, this is Thomas Bahamas, and I have one final ask for you guys. If you could, please subscribe on whatever player you're listening to. You could leave a review. That would be amazing. If you want to shill me your bags, work for them. But yeah, really appreciate it. And as always, this is not financial advice, but I want you guys to accelerate, move forward, and let's get this bag. I'll catch you guys next week.